So this is going to be about narcissistic projections. There's a bunch of malignant narcissists from the church that used to that terrorized me. And this is just one of many accounts of this crazy bullshit. This draws a distinction because the blue-eyed guy told me these guys are special because they're really good at reading people, and I'm happy to announce they're not. Kill them and get rid of them. They're garbage. They project. And I'm about to do an entire bit. So, when dealing with Blondie, the first thing he had the balls to deal with me with was calling me self-righteous, which is funny because the God they made me at this church is self-righteous. So he was literally getting mad at my nature, which is how retards think. But, so he lied about a bunch of things. One, he told me, like, if I signed the perjury, nobody would get hurt. They'd stop human trafficking. He told me that, that nobody was going to hate me. That was another thing, is he promised nobody would hate me. Nothing bad was going to happen. He lied about everything, the same way he lied when he said he'd let me out of my contract. And then this was the thing that annoyed me, because he just kept lying, and then when I stopped trusting him, he got mad. Yeah. It's fucked. I don't want to say I don't care, but it's fucked. But when we were at Papa John's, Blondie comes in, and I'm back there retarded from heavy metal poisoning. He's completely destroyed my brain. And he comes back there and he tells me, you derive your value from money. You do. And I was like, no. And he's like, no, you do. You do. Your value, you have nothing, so you're nothing. And that's what the problem is. You won't stand up for yourself. You won't. And I stood up for myself against these guys a ridiculous amount, all the way to the point that I went to court and reported them. And then this guy tells me, you don't stand up for yourself. Blondie doesn't stand up for himself because the church will go ahead and threaten anybody for him, so he doesn't have to worry about that kind of thing. So we know he doesn't stand up for himself because he's a loser. It's what he does. It's in his blood. But he starts telling me about how I derive value from my self-worth from money. And I start laughing because he literally told me earlier all of his security and his value comes from money, having wealth. Literally tells me that. And this gets into one of the wives, because he did this weird dating show bullshit where he fucked up my mind and I was all hypnotized and I saw all the wives as ugly and I was supposed to pick one, but they were all ugly. And I think this was an attempt to get me to choose the ugly wife, which fuck you for fucking with my mind anyways. Once again, this is another thing about them not following their own rules, because I was still classified as a church leader at this point, and it's actually against their rules to do that to a church leader. So go ahead and kill Blondie. You're not gonna. Because you don't follow your own rules. They're made up, same way Stu can steal money from the church. So one of the wives, so he can prove to me, like, this shit got stupid because he projected insecurity from money. He projected I was jealous of him. That was my favorite. He went on a thing. I didn't even know this guy. And he went on a thing about how I was jealous of him. And this is the problem with this. One, I'm not insecure. I actually don't give a fuck what other people think about me, believe it or not. Two, fucking, I don't do envy. I don't think I've ever really felt true envy over anything, because I don't have the same, I'm not materialistic. I don't care about stuff and things. Okay, I've always been practical. I've always been okay with living a simple life. I've been practical my entire fucking life. Okay? I don't get, like, well, anyways. So he projects that onto me because he values stuff and things. He values money. His self-worth comes from money. And, I don't remember what the third thing was. Whatever the third thing was, he projects that onto me, his own insecurities. Tells me I'm these things, and then he tells me he's going to prove it to me by getting a poor woman that I had sex with, apparently, to confirm that she is jealous, envious, and if she got money, the other part was self-righteous. He accused me of being self-righteous. That was the third thing, and that's important. So he accuses me of these things, and then I'm like, okay, how am I self-righteous? He's like, you said you were against human trafficking. I was like, yes, I'd argue outside of this church, they love human trafficking. I'm against human trafficking. And he's like, you're against pedophilia. I was like, I'm against pedophilia. Like, he kept accusing me of being, and then he came in, this is a thing, it's a passive-aggressive thing, where a passive-aggressive person will imitate your behaviors, and he was like, oh, I'm against human trafficking, I'm against all these things, and he kept doing it, and his whole point was to have me call him self-righteous, so he could call me self-righteous, and then I was like, what is your fucking deal? So anyways, I keep bringing it up, the poor wife. So he gets the poor wife to call me, and then she just explains to me she's super vain, she just wanted, I turned her down, that I was supposed to pick a wife, if I picked her, he was going to give her $4 billion, which, okay, lady, if he gave that to you, you would have got a bullet to the head. That's what happens. These guys are bastards. Okay, they care only about money. Money is their only value. They don't care about anything else. So you're welcome. Well, this dumb bitch goes on about how she is jealous of Blondie. She is jealous of the rich. She's insecure. She doesn't have anything, and if she could have a nice car, people would like her. And one, if you ever find yourself doing that, people like the car. They don't like you. You're a garbage person. That's why they don't like you. And I was like, okay, what's that proof? And he's like, well, that's every poor person. So she's every poor person. And I was like, you're an idiot, dude. Stop talking to me. And he's, no, you don't have blah, blah, blah. And I was like, shut up, Blondie. I was like, get the fuck out of here. And I'm subject to this idiot continuously projecting onto me and trying to prove to me something that you can't prove. If you ever find yourself trying to prove something to people constantly, you're insecure. Okay? You're insecure because a secure person doesn't need to prove shit. I have literally stated facts to Republicans and had them accuse me of lying, and I just shrug and walk away. Because what are you going to do? Okay? What are you going to do when they do that? I had an entire roster of shit for fixing climate change and solving a bunch of problems in the fucking world. And they were all shot down by this dickhead at my school, and I just shrugged and ignored him. And I shrugged and ignored him because there's no reason to try and prove to anybody anything. Because one, people have their own biases. They don't fucking listen. No matter what. Okay? If they choose to listen and be rational, intelligent people, you can work with that. If they're imbeciles and they go by how they feel, you're not going to get through to them. That's not going to happen. So I'm retarded on heavy metals. I don't have a real personality. I have an imitation of my old personality, and this asshole is projecting onto me. Well, anyways, he's like, you're not actually a good person. And I was this shit again. Because with a malignant narcissist or narcissistic person, they're the victims in everything. Okay, their only value is themselves, so they're the victims in everything. And then he explains to me that he's not jealous. Like, we get into this conversation where everybody thinks I'm cool because I'm from the ghetto. I nearly took down a massive human trafficking ring, and I did all this by being while I was being dirt fucking poor. I had nothing. Okay? And then Blondie goes on a tirade, explaining to me he's not jealous. Well, simultaneously, we get into the argument about the church founder who was jealous of Jesus. Envy is your core emotion if you're watching this. If you're a narcissist, envy is your core emotion. You're welcome. It's the only emotion you developed. You're jealous of everybody on the planet because you're a loser. So Blondie starts explaining to me I'm jealous of him, and I look at his blonde hair, truffle treat ass, and I start laughing. And then I tell him to fuck off. And then he comes back and he's like, you're self-righteous and blah, blah, blah. Because if I gave you the money, you would spend it on sex and drugs. Yeah. That's what you would do. You would go buy nice trinkets and a nice house and sex and drugs. And I just start laughing because I was like, that's projection. And I'm about to tell you how you know it's projection. Tetralead brain causes addiction. The reason why Blondie's highest self his literal highest self, is high on LSD and having sex is because he's an addict. That is addict heaven. Okay, sex and drugs is addict heaven. And that is the only priority Blondie has. And then he projects that onto me, telling me that's what I want. And that shit's funny to me because when I was president, I used to freak out and cry and beg to go home. Yeah, that's not a joke. All you do out there in the desert is do drugs and have sex. That's it. That's your life. Nothing else. That's all you do. It's fucking horrible. It's horrible, it's not stimulating, and you feel like you're moderately fucking retarded all the time because your brain's destroyed with heavy metals. That's all that happens out there. Is you are a fucking imbecile, and I used to scream and cry I wanted to go home. So now, if I wanted that life, then why the fuck did I walk away from that life? One of the few memories I remember, I guess I really did like one of the wives. I really wanted to be with her, and when I was about to leave from being anal-eating mummy god of these crazy drug-addicted sex addicts, I wanted to be with that woman, but this is what happens when you have cadmium brain, and I had cadmium brain. I just forgot what my original ambition was, and then I remember I just chose to go home because I had forgot the woman I wanted to be with. I forgot. That's what happens, and I kept doing that with my cadmium brain. I would do stuff and then forget I did it, or I'd say things and then forget I said them. And that's because my brain was being destroyed by cadmium, and once again, everybody ignored my needs. I said I needed chelation, they said no. We're not helping you. And that is a curse of the Bob, because I have common sense, I have intelligence, and I have altruism, which are three things that make people hate you. Okay? They can't stand those things. It makes them sick. And that is why nobody helped me, even though I helped everybody else. And this shit kind of got stupid because Blondie himself has no values, and we got into that because I was like, everybody's waiting on Jesus to come back to save everybody. They want Jesus to help them. And I was like, and you're over here telling me I can't have help, nobody's going to help me, and there's no help for Bob, but you assholes are waiting on some loser to come back from the dead to help you because you can't help yourselves. And I remember this freeze and this stare and this demented look of hatred on his face because it was the realization, once again, he was projecting. Yeah. And this kind of feeds into a conversation later, but he was telling me you could give yourself chelation therapy. Hey, you can, but it destroys your teeth. And that's an expensive fix, by the way. It's really fucking expensive. Try $200,000 or $300,000 expensive. Because I got forced into doing it. Oh, you can do it yourself. Look, Blondie, you can do any surgery yourself, on yourself. Why don't you try it? This is what happens when you have no values. To be clear, every narcissist thinks any good person is self-righteous because they don't have values. And these people believe in Nietzsche. And Nietzsche says, get rid of your morals. Get rid of those. Those are stupid. Become your higher self, a complete piece of shit. And then when you come across somebody with morals and values, hate them because they make you feel like shit. And also, they're self-righteous because they have values and you don't. And when you don't have values, you don't have value as a person. You're valueless. It's a fact. I don't know what the fuck. Like, this is just dealing with narcissistic projection. Another example of this was Gannon continuously saying, I liked Lexi when I didn't. She's not even fat. And then he murdered her because she rejected him. And then he used the excuse that he thought she liked me. This is what happens when you let stupid people, and I will say this about the church, all the skills, all the shit they're trained to do, and they're complete fucking imbeciles. And that's the scary thing about these people. That's the most terrifying thing on the planet. Stupid people with power, and they are stupid people with power. I don't really have much to add on that. It's kind of funny because I've never considered myself ultra intelligent to begin with. I just take about 5 seconds to process everything, unlike these people who don't process. They react, and then when things get bad, they blame everybody. Yeah. I hope you guys found this educational. If you yourself have dealt with people projecting onto you, I'm sorry about that. Everybody I've ever, like, it kills me that the only real skill that the malignant narcissist has is narrative spinning, where they just straight up lie. Like, their skill, their super secret skill is they just lie. Like, and here's the thing, they poison people with tetraled so that they're stupid and then can't detect that they're disingenuine. I had trouble. I literally couldn't detect that Blondie was being disingenuine in everything he did. I can look at my memories now and go, holy shit, he was disingenuine, but I couldn't do that while my brain was being destroyed by heavy metals and tetraled. They rob you of your senses, they rob you of your intelligence, and then they make you mindless and stupid, and then you're going to do what they want you to do. And when you do what they want you to do, what happens? What the fuck happens? If it goes bad, it's your fault, because they have no agency. Blondie himself said he can never admit when he's wrong, and we all know in psychology that's toxic. And he went on an entire thing telling me, you want to hear self-righteous, about how he can't ever, no matter what, admit he's wrong. He can never apologize, and he can never, ever say he's wrong. And I was just, whatever, dude. That's toxic. That's what happens. And bad shit happens when you're not allowed to admit you're wrong. Okay? I can't really think of a super good example, but like, let's say you're just like, you know what? I think that everybody needs to be shot in the head, and then they start shooting people in the head, and then you're like, oh god, they're all dying, you guys should stop. Oh wait, I can't admit I'm wrong, so they have to slaughter everybody in existence because you said something stupid, and then, what? And also, you're not allowed to think. That's the other part. You're not allowed to think, but also, you're not allowed to make a mistake, but you're also not allowed to think, but you're also not allowed to make a mistake. Stupid. The word for it is stupid, by the way.